So we're going to open up our image from last time. It should be saved as a PSD. I'm going to go to Photoshop and I'm clicking on Open from Computer. Mine is saved in my downloads, and as you can see, it's saved as a PSD, which means all of our layers have been saved. If you have not done so already, I want you to lock your background layer just by clicking Lock above your layers, and we're going to start with layer 2. We're going to make a duplicate of this layer. You could do this one of two ways. You could drag this layer down to this piece of paper down here, or you can go to the top menu, click Layer, Duplicate Layer, or Command J or Control J. So we've made a copy. I'm going to actually lock layer 2 so it doesn't move, and I'll lock layer 1 while I'm here. And because this bounding box is showing up, our transform controls are still left on from the last time that we did this. If you do not see this bounding box, just go to your move tool on the toolbar, top one, with the arrow with the plus, and make sure that transform controls is checked blue. I'm going to move this replica down below, and I'm going to turn this into a shadow. Because I am hovering right above, I'm just going to pull down from the center, which gives a flattened shape, but that's going to create that perspective as if it's on the floor. Now, this leg we're actually going to erase, so don't worry too much about that. If the light is coming from up above, you want to think about where your shadow is landing. So I'm going to place this down here. Getting the right shape, that's up to you. Try your best. The right way to do this, I mean, you could be more technical. I find that this is a quick solution to get a shadow on the ground to give it a little depth. So I'm going to cover, or actually hide, layers 2, layer 1, and the background. I'm going to keep layer 2 copy as my only visible layer. So you should have the checkerboard back here. Go down to your black and white cookie, new adjustment layer, and we are going to select exposure. We're going to drag that all the way to the left, and as you can see, this becomes very dark. It becomes black, and this reminds me almost of Peter Pan's shadow. So before we move further, because if I bring everything back, that exposure adjustment layer covers everything. So we want to combine these two layers. Again, you could do this one of two ways. You can go to the layer menu and go to merge down, or Command E or Control E. By doing that, it's going to combine that layer that was copied with your exposure layer. So now when I bring everything back, we're able to see it and it is combined. I'm going to keep everything locked for now, and I'm just going to make a few changes because looking at this, it's a pretty intense shadow, and looking at the reflection of the lockers over here, it's slightly grayed out. So there's a few things we could do. We can test out the fill, and we can test out our opacity. We want this to be subtle. If you want it to be a little more intense, of course, that's up to you. It really depends on the location of where you took this picture. And maybe before I get too light, I'm going to zoom on in, and I want to erase this piece that's up on the locker. So I have a nice subtle, let me click off of that, a nice subtle shadow. Again, you can make this a little more exaggerated, going back and forth between your opacity, which is really your transparency, and the fill of that layer. So that is up to you. If you want to soften up some of this, again, you can go back in with your eraser, changing your brush to a softer brush. You can change your opacity, and you can erase as you go. Maybe the edges are a little softer, and again, it looks very abstract down here. So just keep zooming in and out, use your judgment. That looks like it could be the shadow. So I'm going to lock that, and I'm going to quickly do the same with layer 1. So you can cut these out. Try your best to come up with some of your shapes for your shadows. Again, this is all about the look that you're going for. Keep in mind how far away the shadow is from the person. If they're further away, it may be slightly smaller. If they're reflecting right to them, that's another way to size it up. So that is how you are going to add shadows to your Photopea levitation project. Be sure to save this as a Photoshop because we do want to go back in and add more to this assignment.